views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
I'm the Dr. Bob Lee. Welcome to Open BxRx, our special coverage of COVID-19, also known as the coronavirus. Coming up on today's show, as elections approach, we will talk to a local student working to make voting accessible in a time of social distancing. Plus, we'll talk to Assemblyman Michael Blake, who's also the DNC Vice Chair, talking about resources, budget, and what's happening in our community and country. Then my man Bobby C has the latest on the impact in the world of sports. And later on, we'll learn about a website providing services online as New York remains on pause. Stay tuned. All this and more is headed your way. We are now open. Welcome back, everybody. I'm the Doc Bob Lee, and I'm on the line with my buddy, Assemblyman Michael Blake. And there's a lot of things happening that we think that you should know. We have the Bronx Foundation. We have the elections pushed back to June 23rd. Everything's going to happen all together. The DNC convention was pushed back. Assemblyman, tell us about it.
Well, Dr. Lee, good to connect with you. Obviously, this is a new world for all of us.
Yes,
and we're all trying to figure out how to endure it all. Thoughts, prayers with everyone. This is not easy. And for all families impacted, I'm going to start there. Too many calls coming in that we all don't want to receive. Look, why are we here right now and chatting in this way? It's because it's a new reality, right? And that I think we have to understand that life has changed as we know it for all of us. And how do we now endure and make that progress? I'm talking to you as we gear up for many things. One being, how do we help people immediately? And this is from food to jobs to small business relief to healthcare.
Yeah,
the nonprofits. So we have launched a Bronx emergency relief effort. If you go to thebronx.org, you'll see the ways we're going to help people. So, for example, World Central Kitchen, we're getting out more than 15,000 meals a day to families who need it throughout the Bronx. We're partnering up with DreamYard and the Knowledge House and Meta Bronx to help with technology needs for young people and families who are trying to figure out remote learning. Yeah. Small business relief through Third Avenue Business Improvement District. So a lot of things happening on that front, but I just want people in the Bronx to know first and foremost, this is why we're here. People need to know you're going to help them, and we're ready to help.
Well, we always appreciate you. You're a brother that's out there doing a lot of things on many fronts, and thank you for being on the front line for our community. Also, they pushed back the elections. Everything's happening for the first time on June the 23rd. Explain that.
So, we were supposed to have the presidential primary in New York, April 28th. For everyone that was in Queens and connected to Queens, there was going to be a special election March 24th for their borough president. But reality, we had to combine everything. And so the first piece to realize is we don't know how the process is going to be yet. Many of us are pushing for absentee voting and for vote by mail. Those are not automatic within the Constitution here in New York. And so what I would really encourage you is, if you're concerned about what's happening with making sure democracy is exercised, help us. We're pushing forward an effort on online voter registration. It's actually my bill.
Yeah. And you have a young lady from CUNY. She goes to John Jay College, Jessica Rosario.
Yeah, Jessica has been a phenomenal champion in advocating for that. She hosted a Zoom call last week to communicate with people about what's happening around this. It's a bill that I'm working on with Senator Zelnor Myrie out of Brooklyn. And so we want to make sure we continue that attention and that push for all of us. That's bill number 8473. So that people can be aware of that. Again, 8473.
8473.
But when we think about what's happening June 23rd, President, Congress, State Senate, State Assembly, all of us are going to be that same day. And so, I know people are home. We're all taking our precautions. But, we have to make sure that we exercise our right to vote, and we have to make sure that we fill out the census for participating that way. So the two things I'll say to everybody, if you want to learn more about what we are doing, text the word Blake to 66539. Text Blake to 66539, and then we'll follow up with information there on how you can get involved. BlakeForCongress.nyc, of course, is our website to find out information about what we're doing for COVID relief and the elections. But also on the census, before we even talk about what's happening June 23rd, we need everybody to be filling out the census. So go to 2020census.gov for that.
And you can go, you can go online. Nobody, if you don't want to open up your door, just go online and do it that way.
That's right.
DNC convention pushed back. Did we mention that? I mentioned it in the beginning, but
man, again, a lot of things moving. We are supposed to be happening in July. We're now moving the DNC convention till the week of August 17th. The D that I wear here in my lapel is I'm one of the vice chairs of the Democratic National Committee. And so we have that responsibility of making sure we keep people safe and thinking about how do we nominate a Democrat to defeat Donald Trump, because, as we are talking through everyday life and policy, we have to understand that politics is relevant. And Donald Trump and the Republicans took terrible steps that we cannot ignore right now. And it's a blatant, direct reality. Unfortunately, people are going to be ill and going to pass away because of the terrible decisions of Trump. So, yes, the week of August 17th will now be when the Democratic National Convention will happen. We still don't know the logistics around everything. But as we sequence all of this, go to Democrats.org to learn what's happening.
Say it again.
Democrats.org.
You got it. Okay. And finally, the budget. What's happening with the budget? I know we have to pass an extraordinary budget. Things are kind of out of whack, not in harmony right about now. But how's it looking?
I made some very difficult decisions of voting against several parts of the budget. And when I had the honor of working for President Obama, Vice President Biden in the White House, something that was always said is that a budget shows your priorities, a budget shows your values. And so the capital budget that was put forth, while there are good things in it, funding for Bronx Community College and other schools, for example, I voted against it because I could not in good conscience vote for a budget that had $450 million new dollars on prisons, but $0 new dollars on public housing in New York City.
I see.
We have a budget coming forward that again I voted against as it relates to Medicaid cuts. It's unconscionable to me that we would have Medicaid cuts in this environment, and then also rolling back parts of bail where there's going to be new crimes listed that are considered for bail. And when I said often, and I feel this way very strongly, Dr. Lee, I could not, in good conscience, lock up more Black and brown people. So when these decisions are made, and I'll be posting them on our Twitter page and Facebook and everything, and our website, nyassembly.gov, I really want people watching to listen and hear us that difficult decisions were made to do the right thing for our people.
Absolutely. And we thank you once again for all that you do. Give us those websites where we can reach you and get more information on everything that you just spoke about.
So everybody, we all are on our phones nonstop, 24/7. Even when you fall asleep, I'm sure it's in your hand, right? So text Blake to 66539. Text Blake to 66539 in order to get updates that we're getting out to people in real time. You give us your email address, we'll follow up with you. Text the word COVID, COVID, to 692-692. If you do that, you'll get COVID updates from New York City. go to thebronx.org to learn about our Bronx emergency relief effort. Again, that's 8 verticals: food, small business, nonprofit, housing, healthcare, equity and justice, micro grants, education, connectivity, all these ways we're going to help you right now. So thebronx.org. And then lastly, if you want to find out what's happening with us, go to nyassembly.gov for our official information, or blakeforcongress.nyc for political information. A lot of things happening. Follow us on social media, MR Mike Blake. I know I'm giving y'all a lot, but I want y'all to stay connected. These are the moments.
You're doing a lot.
What's happening. That's why we got our gloves. You know, we're going to be out here even with our gloves to keep it going.
You stay safe, Assemblyman.
Thank you, Dr. Lee.
Stay safe. And thank you for all that you do. You're on the front line, man. Thank you. I see you out there.
We're out there, and we're going to be out there even more. We've been serving food. We're doing it safely. We have social distancing. But if anyone needs a meal, if anyone needs help, every single day, you can go to Bronx Draft House or to Bistro. Bronx Draft House is at 884 Girard Avenue. Bistro's at 135 Alexander. No questions asked. 12 p.m. We'll have food available. Don't let pride be the reason why someone's hungry and hurting right now.
We love you, man.
Love you too,
for all that you do.
Thank you.
Assemblyman Michael Blake and DNC Vice Chair, and he's running for
Congress in New York 15. BlakeForCongress.NYC.
We appreciate you. We love you, man.
Love you too. Bless you.
Bless you too. We'll take a break, and we'll come back with more next.
Why should young people care about the spread of coronavirus? Well, we know that people with underlying medical conditions over the age of 60 are at highest risk, but they've got to get it from somebody.
So we're asking everyone to be selfless for others so that we can protect those who are most susceptible.
Not going to bars, not going to restaurants. It all just means physical separation so that you have a space between you and others.
For more information on how you can social distance, please go to coronavirus.gov.
Third Avenue is known as one of New York's most trafficked commercial districts with over 300,000 daily visitors. But now, due to COVID-19 and social distancing, many businesses are closed, and the busy hub for shopping and transportation is now a somber, quiet scene.
On Third Avenue and probably throughout many of our commercial districts, we're looking at extraordinary circumstances where many of our businesses who are forced to shutter will most likely not reopen without significant assistance from the government.
One of the very few businesses still open here on Third Avenue is the restaurant right behind us, American Grill, who's trying to still keep the business going even despite the pandemic.
All the stores are closed, so my lunch crowd is gone. People shopping, everything is gone. So for me right now, my business is only from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. and my sales have dropped 70%.
Hector Cruz tells us his business was able to temporarily open through the federal stimulus for small businesses, which allowed him to hire staff and secure a gig catering to Police Service Area 7 right down the block from American Grill.
We're feeding about 150 police officers. We're catching the shift change. So we're catching the police officers that from the morning shift. Right now, they're getting off around 2 p.m., and then after the officers coming in. So we're trying to feed as many police officers as possible.
Businesses seeking help at this time can visit nyc.gov/SBS to find assistance and guidance for businesses and job seekers impacted by COVID-19. Reporting for BronxNet, Sanji Lopez.
Hi, welcome back, everybody. Our next guest is a CUNY student who is calling on government officials, to bring online voting registration to New York. Joining us with all the details, we have Jessica Rosario. Jessica, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Jessica, what school do you go to?
I go to John Jay College of Criminal Justice.
All right. What are you majoring in?
I am majoring in political science with a minor in law.
And then how did you come up with the idea? Tell us about your call to action.
Well, it first began when CUNY closed. I realized that...
Say it again. It first began when?
It first began when CUNY closed, and I realized that that sooner or later elections would be moved as the virus continued to spread. And then other schools, public schools in New York were closed. So I realized that a lot of the voter registration efforts that were planned for those schools and for our communities were going to be shut down, and that did eventually happen. So then I decided to actually take action.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's very, very important in the light of what's going on right about now. Do you have a team of people working with you? Because I know you said, you know what, this is a great idea. Let me just take action. But I need a team. What did you do to gather that team? Or are you still gathering the team?
We're always still gathering the team. We need as many people who care about this to help and make calls. But of course, I turn to my peers, fellow student activists, some partners, and ask for detailed specifics like statistics and doing research and finding the legislation. I do have partners from the University Student Senate, CUNY. I have partners from other organizations who are just students like me who care about the vote and believe that it's really important that we make our voices heard and are able to register online.
Yeah. Did you reach out to any of the elected officials?
Yes, so I did reach out to Senator Myrie and Assemblyman Michael Blake, who are the sponsors of the bill. And we had our youth action yesterday. And on that call, we did have Assemblyman Michael Blake, who was able to speak on the legislative side and why the bill was important, why he felt it was needed to sponsor, and really pushing students and asking them, please push for this, as I will be pushing for this in the legislature. We did make calls and we were emailing and using social media and leveraging our power the best way that we can in this time to get that really out there.
Yeah, and Assemblyman Michael Blake is not only an assemblyman or an elected official, he's also a pastor, and he's also the DNC vice chair. So that's a very powerful guy to work with. He can help you get the message out. We have to do something. They're making everybody stay home. You got to either do a mail-in thing or online. You're absolutely right, and we're with you 100%.
Thank you.
So where do we go from here? What's next? What do you have in mind?
Well, we have our petition up that currently has 530 signatures. My goal is to get to 1,000 by at least the end of this week or early next week. I'm going to keep pushing on my end and getting more volunteers to make calls and spread awareness and create visibility for the issue. I'm hoping to plan some sort of town hall where people can join, and having Assemblyman Michael Blake there and hopefully Senator Myrie, and really talking about why this is more important than ever, continuing to push and engage students in the conversation about this. It's really important, and the election just got moved, so there's a lot to vote on, but the only way that we can vote is ensure that students and naturalized citizens and people who just aren't registered have that opportunity is through passing this legislation.
Yeah. Now you have the petition out. How many people do you need in order to make it work?
Well, we're trying to get as many as possible to grab the attention of the governor and the speaker and the Senate Majority Leader. But there's no real large number. We just want to show that this is something that New Yorkers want and something that they're demanding.
Yeah, but you got the CUNY system that you can start out with, and you got Assemblyman Michael Blake, and you can go to the SUNY system also, and let it just build.
We have partners.
Yeah, excellent. We thank you for all that you're doing.
Thank you.
We're with you, and we hope everything works out the way you want it to.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, so is there a website where people can go to find out more about the petition and everything that you're doing?
Yeah, the petition is change.org/NYC needs OVR.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much, okay? We appreciate you. Jessica Rosario. All right. Online voting coming your way soon. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you.
All right. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. In partnership with WFUV, reporter Natalie Migliore, she explores domestic violence and what we can do if we are home with an abuser. Let's take a look.
I'm Natalie Migliore, and as many New Yorkers may already know, officials have agreed to extend social distancing guidelines through April 30th. But what does that mean for survivors of domestic violence, who may be spending more time at home with their perpetrators? Joining me today is Maureen Kurdish. She's the Vice President of Criminal Justice Programs at Safe Horizons. Thanks for joining me, Maureen.
Thank you for inviting me.
So, Maureen, what is different about how survivors reach out for help during the coronavirus outbreak? And how can they reach out for help?
So, the major difference with how survivors can reach out to help is now many organizations, including Safe Horizon, are working remotely. Our hotline, though, which is 24 hours, 7 days a week, is still in operation, as are our shelters. They are still accepting survivors who need to leave their home, flee their home to go into shelter. But most other programs, and this is true of other provider agencies in the community, are operating remotely. And what that means is that we're not in our offices, so we're not seeing people if they come into court or if they come into a police precinct or if they just come into one of our community programs seeking assistance. But we are available by phone, and we're getting referrals directly from our hotline. We get referrals from our core partners. We get referrals from precincts because we have staff working in police precincts citywide, and from our website where people can seek information, and all of our numbers are up there with the information that we're now working remotely. Our staff are checking the messages throughout the day to, ensure that survivors who do call and leave a safe number for us to respond to, that we're calling them back quickly. So that's basically the main difference. And because of our long relationships with various systems, we have really strong partnerships, and they are making referrals to us of survivors who may be high risk. So somebody calling the police for assistance, it may not be an arrestable offense, but the person felt that their life was threatened, and that officer now is going to call us for us to do a follow-up call with that person.
And is that mostly how people are contacting you?
Mostly. I think we're, as I said, our hotline is still open 24 hours. So our hotline staff are answering the calls throughout the day and the night, and they have our information, so they know that if somebody is calling, for example, that is interested in seeking or petitioning for an order of protection, they send an email directly to the family court director of Safe Horizon in the borough that person would be seeking an order of protection. And our family court staff are skilled in how to help that person petition for the order of protection, even now that that's happening remotely. Similarly to, somebody who called the precinct. They may have called the police, and now they're called the hotline for assistance, and they're going to connect that survivor to the advocate who works in that police precinct, so that they can, follow up with any additional assistance that may be needed by maybe the domestic violence police officer, and we'll be in contact with them.
Yeah, and so how can family members of survivors help?
So family members, I think that even before the coronavirus outbreak, we know that family is a critical what we call protective factor for survivors of domestic violence. So many survivors turn to their family and friends before they turn to any systems, including domestic violence providers. So how they can help, particularly now where survivors may be more isolated, is really, really important. So for example, as we've been told to stay at home and to social distance, we're also being encouraged to stay connected via Facebook or via phone calls, to touch base with family and friends. And that could be an opportunity for a family member who knows that their sister or their cousin is involved in a violent relationship, just to touch base with them and to see how they're doing. And it could be just a natural follow-up as part of the virus, as opposed to, checking in because of violence in the home. Similarly, the survivor who may not feel safe in calling 911 may call their family member and develop a code word with them. So it could be just for emotional safety, just to touch base, just to, have the support of a family member or a friend. Or it could be that they feel that their life is being threatened. They're not able to call 911, but they're able to call a family member or a friend and use that code word so that family member or friend can call 911 on their behalf. But I think that we can't underestimate how important that support can be, whether it be to help that person when they're in physical danger, or even just to provide the emotional support around the trauma that person may be experiencing, that might be heightened because they're now isolated in a home with somebody who's abusing them.
Right, exactly. Especially, like we were saying, they've extended those guidelines for social distancing, so people are being told to stay home. What is your advice to survivors who are home right now?
Well, I think that, one of the things that I would say is you're not alone. You're not alone. And even though many domestic violence advocates are working remotely, we're here to help. And the systems that have been the traditional systems that survivors turn to, whether it be going into a shelter, calling 911 when you feel your life is threatened, going into court to petition for an order of protection, all of these systems are still available. We're still accepting survivors and their children as needed into our shelters, as our other shelters. And a person can still call 911 if they feel their life is threatened. And if they want to petition for an order of protection, they can still come into the court. They don't come into the court now because it's all remote, but they can connect with one of our advocates or an attorney who can help them file and obtain that order of protection. So I think that, for those who don't want to avail themselves of these systems, we often talk to them because even before the virus, we safety plan with some of our clients around the choice to stay in a relationship that may be abusive. Our survivors our clients day in and day out, make decisions about risks that they may identify that have more priority than the risk of physical danger. So we'll talk with them about, if they are choosing to stay, and this would apply now where they may be isolated in a home, how can you protect yourself if there is the threat of physical violence? The person who's being abused knows the person who's abusing them best. They know what triggers. They know that what may be upsetting to them, and they're going to manage that as they have in other situations. Even more so now that they are isolated. Or it could be, as I mentioned, having a code word, whether it be with the children or a neighbor or a family member. But I think even more so now, safety planning with survivors, it's always individualized, but I think even more so now is probably thinking more outside the box, where people are going to be really creative and in how they protect themselves.
Great. Well, thank you, Maureen, so much for coming to talk to us today about, what survivors of domestic violence can do. Really helps. Hopefully.
Thank you for asking me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. We'll take a break. I've got more coming up next.
Many businesses operating in the Bronx have been dealing with the effects of the government-mandated shutdown, like Lobster Place Wholesale, located at the hub for food, Hunts Point.
Overnight, our customers didn't exist anymore. Lobster Place sells fresh, live, and frozen seafood to about 800 regional restaurants, caterers, bars, all types of food service businesses. So when they were directed to shut down, there wasn't any fish to sell, unfortunately, or any places to sell it to.
Ian McGregor was forced to give thousands of dollars worth of merchandise away upon closing down his family business after over 50 years of service. But the first thing on this CEO's mind were his team members, who he describes as family.
Making the decision to close, the hardest thing was, how are my employees going to feed themselves? How are they going to pay their rent? How are they going to take care of their families? And that was a really gut-wrenching part of making the decision for me. I really don't have words to describe how I felt as I brought this news to all these folks, this terrible, terrible news. And they just sort of looked at me and said, "Don't worry, boss, we got this. We'll be back." And, it was one of the most inspiring things that I've seen in my professional life. And those people are my heroes, that they really are.
For Ian and many other business owners, the decision to close was no easy task. He's had to balance preserving limited resources in order to ensure that jobs for his 250 team members remain secured after this pandemic. Lobster Place has identified different ways to help their team overcome financial hardships.
We're doing a variety of things to try and look after them. We're starting a GoFundMe drive. We're going to pay for health insurance for the month of April. We're anxiously watching the legislative process in the federal government, because I think there'll be resources available for us to continue to help depending on how that goes. So, I'm recording videos and sending to them every few days and just trying to stay connected, because at this point, that's what we can do.
Businesses like Lobster Place have posted GoFundMes and other links to help assist and uplift their teams during this tough time. To follow and show support to these businesses, keep up with their websites and social media. Follow at Lobster Place Wholesale on Instagram to stay in touch. Reporting for BronxNet, Sanji Lopez.
Hey there, sports fans. Bobby C back here at the world's most famous arena. This time around on the program, we will take a look at the top Rangers moments at Madison Square Garden. Coming in at number 10, the captain passes Mr. Hockey, November 4th, 2003. Mark Messier ties and passes Gordie Howe for number 2 on the all-time scoring list. The captain scored 2 goals as the Rangers beat the Dallas Stars 3-0. With the first goal, he ties Howe for the second spot on the all-time scoring list. With the second, he takes sole possession with his 1,851st point. And at number 9, one goalie legend eclipses another. January 18th, 2001. Mike Richter breaks Eddie Giacomin's career record for wins. 7 seasons after sipping Stanley Cup champagne, Mike Richter took aim at what previously had been thought of as an unattainable record, the most franchise wins by a Rangers goalie. The magic number was 266. After tying the record, Richter's chance to beat the great Eddie Giacomin standard reached a crescendo at the Garden on the night of January 18th. Mike York tied the game against Toronto 1-1 in the third period, sending the drama into OT. Rangers legend Brian Leetch whipped a shot off the near side post and passed Leafs goalie Curtis Joseph. The rest is history. At number 8 on my list of the top 10 Ranger moments in Garden history is the Blue Shirts getting back to the Stanley Cup Final, May 29th, 2014. The Rangers won the Prince of Wales Trophy after defeating the Montreal Canadiens in Game 6 to win the Eastern Conference Final in the 2014 NHL Stanley Cup Playoffs at MSG. Nothing is more exciting than the playoffs at the world's most famous arena. This was especially true in the spring of 2014 when the Rangers flexed their postseason muscles and fought the Canadiens in a series which would propel the winner into the Cup final. When the final buzzer sounded for the 1-0 Rangers triumph, it felt like more than 19,000 of the blue shirt faithful let out one tremendous exhale.
We played so well the entire game. So for me, it was more about just being focused on the few shots they had. And the third period, I think we played our best period of the playoffs. And when it mattered the most, guys really stepped up. And it was awesome to be back there and see the way we took charge and earned this victory.
The 7th spot belongs to an upset of upsets over their rivals. May 8th, 1979. By the end of the 78-79 season, the New York Islanders were regarded as the class team of the NHL and an odds-on favorite to win their first Stanley Cup. By contrast, the Rangers seemed like a more ragtag group. This round of the Battle of New York would go to the Rangers. Isles great Bobby Nystrom won another overtime battle to tie the series at 2 apiece. But the once friendly Coliseum didn't help Al Arbor's group in Game 5. The Rangers took a 3-2 lead following a Game 5 win as they returned to the Garden for the closer. They won that one too, a dominating 2-1 win. One headline summed up the story: impossible achieved at the Garden. How about a first of firsts at number 6? The date was February 18th, 1968. Bob Nevin, the Blue Shirts captain from 1965 to 1971, can still lay claim to being the first Rangers player to score a goal at the current MSG. He made that history on that date during the first NHL game held at the Garden's present location. Nevin's goal set off a 3-goal outburst that gave the Blue Shirts their commanding 3-1 lead with 2:33 left in the middle period. That wound up being the final score. Nevin also had an assist in the game, setting up Don Marshall's game winner at 12:18 of the second. And at number 5 on my list of the top moments for the Rangers in their house is the retirement of the Great One, April 18th, 1999. Wayne announced to the world what nobody wanted to hear. He was prepared once and for all to hang up his skates. He would call the home game against Pittsburgh 2 nights later his finale. With a mere couple of days to prepare for the gala occasion, the Garden came through as it always does. As for the game, Gretzky got an assist on a Brian Leetch power play goal. It was the 2,857th and last point of his career. At number 4, November 2nd, 1975, the return of Eddie Giacomin. Eddie Giacomin, an extremely popular player with fans who had been traded to the Detroit Red Wings 2 days earlier, was back in New York to face his old teammates. Ranger fans cheered him and his new team on to victory over the home team. From his rookie season 1965-66 for almost a dozen seasons, it was shocking when the Red Wings moved to claim the veteran puck stopper. No less astonishing was the coincidental fact that the Rangers' next foe happened to be none other than Detroit. The crowd chanted, "Eddie, Eddie, Eddie," for the first 55 minutes in one of the more memorable games at MSG. If you are a true Ranger fan, you remember this date, May 27th, 1994. Enter Stéphane Matteau. The Rangers reached the Eastern Conference final round against the New Jersey Devils. The Devils won the opener at the Garden, but the Rangers tied the series in a Game 2 4-0 win. The series came down to Game 7 and yet another overtime. It was there that Matteau corralled the puck and bullied his way in front to squeeze arguably the greatest goal in franchise history between the right post and Brodeur's left skate. Rangers radio play-by-play man Howie Rose articulated the play with these words: Matteau behind the net, swings it in front, he scores! Matteau, Matteau, Matteau! The Rangers are headed to the finals. The Rangers returned to a grieving city on October 7, 2001. Following the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks, the Big Apple remained in a state of mourning. The city's sports team suddenly became ambassadors. The first team to return was the Rangers. October 7, 2001 is number 2 on my list. FDNY hockey team co-captain Larry McGee honored lost buddy FDNY Chief of Operations Ray Downey, who died in the 9/11 attacks. McGee presented Rangers captain Mark Messier with Downey's FDNY helmet and asked Mark to don it in memory of Downey. Messier followed through by setting up the first goal en route to a 5-4 overtime victory. Messier followed through by setting up the first goal en route to a 5-4 overtime victory. We saved the best for last, June 14th, 1994. That's the date that the Rangers last won the Stanley Cup. Winning the title didn't come easy. The Vancouver Canucks rallied from a 3-1 games deficit in the final round to tie the series at 3-all. The overflow crowd in Game 7 at MSG was on edge. But after taking a 1-0 lead, the fans wanted a cushion goal to exhale a bit. Adam Graves delivered a power play goal at 14:45 of the first, enabling that 2-0 lead. Mark Messier converted a power play goal for a 3-1 New York lead. For the second straight time, the Blue Shirts were able to head to the locker room with a 2-goal advantage. And it came down to the final minute. The Rangers would hold on, though. Rangers play-by-play man Sam Rosen accented the win. The waiting is over. The New York Rangers are Stanley Cup champions. Those are my top 10 moments for the Rangers at the Garden. That's your look at sports. I'm Bobby C.
All right, welcome back. Our next guest has created a platform for different small businesses to reach families looking for online services throughout New York, as New York remains on pause. Joining us with all the details, we have Anna Feda. Anna, how are you?
Hi, thank you.
You have this organization called Mommy Poppins. Tell us about it.
Yeah, Mommy Poppins is a website. I started it here in New York, but we've actually grown into other cities as well. And we cover family activities and resources, camps, classes, preschools, anything parents need to know about in their city.
Yeah. How has COVID-19 impacted your business or your organization?
I mean, it's been shocking because, you know, when the schools closed and all the after-school programs and activities and events closed down, basically everything that we cover and promote stopped. So I was really not prepared for that at all.
So what do you do? How do you do it now? I mean, how have you shifted the way you do it?
Right now, we pivoted very quickly. We've always done some crafts and other at-home activities, but that's, you know, our main focus now. So all of our editorial content and even our event calendar is now all virtual events. So you can find all the different streaming events, concerts, story times in our calendar now. And we have been writing editorials, helping parents entertain their kids, work from home, all the different things that everybody's trying to figure out.
A whole new way of life, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah. So have you seen a lot of people offering their services, or how's
Yeah.
it working?
So the other thing that we started, which is a little bit different from our normal website, is Poppins at Home, which is this platform to share classes and other performances and things for the providers. Because when I saw the providers closing, I was also really worried about them and realizing that their revenue was going to dry up. And that this was going to go on for a while. So I started to think, what can we do to help all these small businesses? A lot of the after school programs and enrichment courses are taught by artists and just really small businesses that, don't, some of them, it's just an individual provider and maybe a music teacher. They didn't and I realized we could help because we have a lot more technology experience and could help them pivot onto a virtual. So we created a totally new website that's a microsite on our site.
Okay.
It's at learn.mommypoppins.com.
I'm going to write it down.
Learn, LEARN.mommypoppins.com. And any provider can offer their live Zoom classes. That's how most people are doing it on Zoom. Yeah. We actually have started offering birthday parties even. We have Bubble Dad, who has been doing bubble making classes for kids, and he can do a bubble birthday party. So if you're at home and you can't invite your friends over, it's a really fun way to make it special. So all the kids kind of jump onto Zoom at the same time. He does a show for them, engages them, teaches them how to make bubbles, and they're all in their individual homes. So it complies with social distancing, but it, makes it really fun for the kids. So they're not missing out on something special.
Bubble Dad. All right. Keep that going after this is all said and done. Bubble Dad has to stay in there.
I mean, one of the cool things is that in New York, obviously, we have so many different offerings, but, you could be somewhere else in the country and now have access to the same things that we have access to in New York. So I think that's kind of an interesting thing.
Yeah, that's neat. What are some of the other offerings?
Snapology, which is a STEM Lego course. Typically, you go into their classrooms, but now they can do that virtually. They're offering play dates for up to 14 kids that they can do that as a group. We also have, we're putting on some more STEM classes today. We have a visit from a fairy that we're adding in right now today. We've been doing a lot of cooking classes with Health Barn. Stacy from Health Barn has healthy, she does really healthy muffins and apple crisps. And every day she's teaching kids how to bake a different thing or cook a different thing. So and I've sat in on some of the classes just to make sure that they're going well and everything. And the kids are loving it. And actually, the cooking one, the parents are kind of there as well. And it's a really nice thing for them to do together.
We got to find out how to get a virtual taste.
Well, you get to cook it yourself too. I mean, that's the thing. I sat in on that class and I was like, darn it, I wish that I had been cooking along because I want those brownies right now.
Yeah, I want them now. Yes. That's really, really cool. So you have your webmaster working, huh? He's really on it day and night, probably.
Well, I actually did the site myself.
Oh, you did? You're the webmaster.
I do have a developer who typically does our development, but I, kind of just jumped into this myself. I worked with a third party that had a platform that we were able to customize for our use. So, yeah.
Well, we're home now. You have a lot of time. Actually, it's like you're busier than if you went to work, sort of, kind of,
I definitely have been busier. I have not worked this hard in a really long time. Like since I started up my company 13 years ago, I've been working day and night trying to, help everybody get started up on this.
What's that website to go to again?
So our normal website is mommypoppins.com, mommypoppins.com, and the platform for classes is learn.mommypoppins.com.
Mommypoppins.com. Thank you so much.
Thank
Anna
you.
Fada, founder of mommypoppins.com. Mommy Poppins. Appreciate you and love you. Thank you so much. Stay safe.
Thank you. Everybody stay safe and stay home.
Yes. All right. We'll take a break. I've got more next.
Who's most at risk for coronavirus? People over 65, people with underlying medical conditions like heart disease, chronic lung disease, asthma, diabetes, people undergoing cancer treatment, and people with weakened immune systems. What should you do if you or a loved one is at higher risk? Avoid close contact with people. Avoid crowds. Stay home if you can. Wash your hands frequently. Learn more ways to protect yourself and others at coronavirus.gov.
Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today's show. I want to thank you, our guests, for tuning in and checking it all out. Make sure you keep following BronxNet for continued coverage. For all of us checking us out and our viewing audience, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for spending time, and I thank you for letting us share in this space and time with you. For all those who are suffering, going through some psychological situations, and who have sickness and death in our families, we continue to pray for you. And remember that BronxNet is with you every step of the way. I'm the Dr. Bob Lee, and I'll catch you on the radio with BLS. I love you all.